and flew in here today. In that game last night, their newest acquisition, Stan Terlecki, scored 4 goals, his first 4 as a Storm member, and that's all going to add up to a big night tonight for the Crunch's Bernie James.
Bernie James and the Crunch defense will be up against it. 7 goals last night. Obviously, the Storm is very strong offensively. Bernie just one career block shot away from 800 in his entire career. The guy's a very durable and intimidating defender.
And certainly a Cleveland fan favorite as well, and that's throwing your body in front of a lot of people to get 800 career block shots. Overall, the Crunch is 7-6, the Storm 5-9. We'll be back with major indoor soccer league action from the Coliseum in just a moment on Sports Channel. At the end of a short Western road trip, the Crunch lost that game to the Soccer 6-3, but won the contest prior to that the night before in Tacoma 4-2. And of course, the Crunch before that had 2 big wins over Baltimore, 1 at home and 1 on the road. So the Crunch has won 3 of its last 4 games coming into this one. This copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of Summit Soccer Associates Incorporated and is intended for the private non-commercial use of our audience. Any publication, reproduction, transmission, or other use of the pictures, descriptions, and accounts of this game without the express written consent of Summit Soccer Associates Incorporated and Sports Channel Ohio is prohibited. So the Crunch with a 7-6 mark coming in, and Cleveland has played well at home this year with a record of 4-5, while St. Louis on the road has won 3 and lost 4 so far this season. There is a look at Slobo Ilievsky in goal tonight, still going strong at age 40. There you see the numbers on him, a 4.77 goals against average. This is just the 4th game that Slobo has been in this year, and there's a good look at P.J. Johns leading the MISL in goal against average at 2.91. P.J. tonight is appearing in his 10th game of the year, and we're underway at the Coliseum. St. Louis 1-0 against the Crunch this year. That an overtime win. Chested down, and there's Godfrey Ingram, the Storm leading scorer, number 8 along the near side, and Ingram finally gets it loose up the near board. Ingram on the run, and he'll put it right side to Terlecki. He's always dangerous, and he'll score from on the near right side. And for Stan Terlecki, he has been on a scoring binge.
His 5th goal in 2 games there, but he was set up well by Ingram. Ingram won the ball along the boards. It broke through, and it was a 3-on-2 for the St. Louis Storm against the Crunch defense. We'll see it here. The ball was slotted wide then, and Terlecki beat P.J. Johns at the near side. I think Johns was expecting a lower, harder shot perhaps to the far post. Instead, the ball rose up and beat him over his left shoulder. We see it again. Ingram slid it through. Terlecki has enough time really to set his sights, and he found that left upper corner above P.J. Johns.
Away from behind, but it's loose again to Leite. He swung and missed at the shot, and apparently it was because Benny Dargle tripped him from behind.
Benny Dargle just leaned in a bit and interfered enough to cause Leite to swing wildly and miss that shot, but it was a foul as the contact was made by Dargle.
So it'll be a kick in near side, and a quick shot to goal for Leite from beyond the top of the circle as he let go with a left footer, and P.J. had no chance on it, and it is 2-0 St. Louis.
Heavy left-footed shot. Marcio Leite, those white shoes. He and Terlecki both wearing white shoes for the St. Louis team. We'll see it here. Leite waiting at the red line, steps right up, and just blasts the ball straight up above P.J. Johns. Johns a bit screened by his defenders out in front. I don't think he saw it until it was nearly past him.
Now Daryl Duran gets the assist, and for Leite, his first goal, he is in his 4th game as a member of the Storm. They got out to kind of a rough start and made some changes, and those changes paying off with a 2-0 lead in the early going. We'll be back. Mepham got the ball out to Clavillo, and he plays it back to Terlecki in the corner. Mepham kind of grabbing at him from behind, and Ingram has it.
One way to slow it down.
Especially if the official doesn't see it. Here's Terlecki again, lining up for a shot, but he has Mepham right with him. Now he'll go with the left foot, and it's tipped in by Godfrey Ingram off the hip or the chest, and in it goes. And that combination works for the 2nd time this half, and it's 3-0 St. Louis.
Well, we see the replay here. We'll get a little look at some of Terlecki's dribbling abilities. He's a great attacking player, and he can finish well, but look at his ability to cut the ball on a dime, shift around, just get enough space to get a shot in, and this shot's going wide, but Ingram's there, just sticks his knee up, and is able to change the direction of it into the back of the goal behind P.J. Johns.
Well, Godfrey Ingram's not their top goal scorer for nothing. That's his 12th time out of the Coliseum, and St. Louis has stormed to a 3-0 lead. We'll be right back.
6 blocks.
They really have, and here's Donegan going to the Cleveland line and over to Frederickson. This is not their best attacking team by any means on the field right now. And Gary Heel, maybe realizing that's going to play it back all the way into his own end with a minute to go in the first half.
The Storm have been using all of their players at this point, too, trying to keep the fresher legs out there as much as possible since they did play just 24 hours ago.
And Bernie James headed that one up into the crowd, so it'll be a St. Louis kick here. P.J. Johns went to college in Wisconsin at Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Fine goalkeeper there.
He's an intense player.
Interesting thing, of course, is he was with the Force for a few years in the developmental squad and couldn't win a place on the roster. But once he did, he never gave it up. There's Godfrey Ingram and a foul away from the play, and that's going to be on Bernie James as he leveled to Gary Heel. So it'll be a kick in the far corner with 49 seconds to go in the half, and St. Louis leading 3-0. There's Heel. And Colston steps in on that play, and Bernie James clears it, but not out. D. Oliveira tried to get it to Ingram, but was off target with it.
Ingram was all by himself there in the box out in front of P.J. Johns.
Apollo Marhetic will turn it ahead for the Crunch, still looking to get on the board here tonight. And Paul Wright has. Wright will cut to his right, head for the top of the circle, and St. Louis seals him off, but it's going to be called for a foul.
That was a Paul Wright sandwich there. He tried to squeeze through. They wouldn't leave any space for him. It was a foul.
Marhetic to right, blocked again. Crunch calling for a handball, but the whistles don't sound. And St. Louis comes out with it with 15 seconds to go in the half.
I think Frederickson saved a goal there because that was a quick shot coming in. Ilieski with no chance had that ball gotten through Frederickson.
And it looks like St. Louis is going to be very content, obviously, with a 3-0 lead at the half, and that's the way it's going to end. So the St. Louis Storm with an impressive win at home last night, only its 5th in 14 games, at St. Louis continuing its fine play tonight. It's halftime at the Coliseum, and we'll take a break. St. Louis 3 and the Crunch nothing. The St. Louis Storm leading the Cleveland Crunch here at halftime as the Storm looks for its second straight victory. And in that first half, goals for Terlecki, Leite, and Ingram to get St. Louis with the lead at this point in the proceedings. And it has been a pretty dominant performance so far for St. Louis. Earlier this evening, Ty Keogh had a chance to talk with the one-time Bowling Green basketball great. And now Cleveland Force defender Dennis Mepham, and here is Ty with Dennis right now.
Dennis, you played here in Cleveland for 4 years, and then suddenly there was no team here. Now, particularly the way the Cleveland Crunch has been playing, it's got to feel great to be back.
Well, I think, just to have soccer back here in the area is great, and, for us being an expansion team and doing as well as we are and being competitive right from the start, we're all really happy and, expect to make the playoffs and go on from there.
You're from the Rochester, New York area, so this is almost in your neighborhood. Do you feel like you're a hometown boy here?
No, I haven't done a lot of moving around yet, from Rochester to Buffalo all the way west to Cleveland, so basically within a 4 or 5 hour drive, I've played all my soccer career, so I still have, friends and family that come up to see me, so it's like a neighborhood.
Well, you've settled in the backfield here for the Cleveland Crunch. A little bit different situation than maybe you're used to. Now you're being coached by a guy you used to play and still play alongside of. How's that going?
Well, I think that's great. It gives a different perspective. I think Kai, since he's playing, he knows exactly what's going on in the field, and we don't have a coach yelling at us, telling us something that's not really happening, because that's one of the biggest problems is, the relationship between coaches and players is that, you see it from 2 different points of view, but Kai's able to see it from our point of view also.
What about working the ball out of the back? You've got P.J. Johns, Bernie James, Benny Dargo, Mike Sweeney, all these familiar faces. It's got to be a very comfortable situation.
Well, it helps that, all these players that you mentioned that played for many years, and on top of that, we played together for a lot, too. So I think, that helps when the games get really tight towards the end, when it's we're down by a goal or up by 1, that's when you need the experience.
Well, you're comfortable here with the Cleveland Crunch. You're comfortable in this area. You're also doing some work in the community currently.
Well, right now we're helping search for a girl that's been missing for over a month now. Her name is Amy Mihalovic. And since we do a lot of traveling throughout the country, we take some posters with us and we put them up wherever we can, just see if we can help out.
That's wonderful. We wish you luck with that and also with the Cleveland Crunch this year, and we'll take it back up to Steve. Thank you, Dennis.
All right, Ty, thank you. Dennis Bepham back in the lineup after missing a few games with a groin pull, and it's nice to see him back in the lineup tonight. It's halftime at the Coliseum, and the Crunch still looking to get on the board. Storm leads at 3-0. Steve French back along with Ty Keogh. The first time these expansion teams have met here at the Coliseum. They have met once before, and St. Louis won that one in overtime. The Storm lead tonight by a count of 3-0. Also early tonight, Ty Keogh had a chance to talk with Michael King. Michael King right now with 15 points, the Crunch's second leading scorer behind Hector Marinero. And now we'll go down to Ty and Michael King.
Thank you, Steve. Michael King, you were born in England. You came over to the United States to play some college soccer quite successfully, I should add. And I just wanted to ask you, perhaps, when you first came over, what type of transition was it in terms of the level of play for you?
Well, you know, it was coming from England and playing with a lot of older, experienced players and going to a college situation where you were playing with 18-year-olds, 19-year-old players again. There's a bit of adjustment, but hopefully the experience that I had gained in England kept me in good stead coming back to college over here.
Well, you were able to make a name for yourself, the all-time scorer in NCAA soccer at Farley Dickinson, and then you were able to latch in to professional soccer and in the Cleveland area.
Yeah, I was lucky, you know. I had some good players around me and some good coaching at college, and that led into the indoor game. It's a little bit of a transition, but you know, it took a while to get used to it, but now I'm feeling pretty well.
Well, 2 seasons in Cleveland, then 1 in Dallas, and now you're back in Cleveland, and it seems so far this year that you're really settling into being a strong scorer in this league.
Yeah, you know, first 2 years I had here, I didn't play a whole heck of a lot in a starting role, and then last year in Dallas I played every game, and you know, right from the word go in Dallas I sort of fitted into the starting role, and it's just sort of carried over this year here.
So then you come back into Cleveland. The team is playing really well. You split on your West Coast trip last weekend. Now you're at home against a team that had just a fine performance last night, knocking off Tacoma 7-1.
Yeah, we feel that to do well in this league you have to win on the road, and last week we got 2 out of 3 wins on the road. And then coming back here, we played St. Louis, and they got their first win against us in overtime. And we know that they played last night, and we're going to get after them early tonight. And hopefully we can turn around what they did to us last time in St. Louis.
Well, great, Michael. We wish you the best of luck tonight's game and the rest of the season. Keep scoring the goals. We like to see that. And at this point, we'll be back with some halftime stats and just some... Thanks, Michael.
Back at the Richfield Coliseum on banner night here, and it is the Crunch having less than a banner night so far, trailing the St. Louis Storm at halftime by a count of 3-0. I'm Steve French along with Ty Keogh. It has been all St. Louis for the most part in the first half, and let's take a look at the goal scoring in that first half, all for the Storm. And it started out with a nice play between Ingram and Terlecki.
Ingram stole the ball along the boards and just slid a ball wide to Terlecki. Terlecki had some time to really look down and hammer this ball up high over P.J. John's left shoulder. So quite a bit of time. A player like Terlecki, he can convert those.
And that game, as you see, just 5 minutes into the game, Terlecki's 5th goal in 2 games. About 2.5 minutes after that, the Storm has struck again, this time off a set piece from the corner.
Duran knocked it out to the top of the arc there, and Leite with the left foot just blasted the ball high into the net above P.J. Johns. Johns was screened on that one by a defender out in front.
Leite in his 4th game with a Storm, and his first goal was 2-0 after 1. In the second period then, about 4 minutes in, same combo we saw before.
We get to see some of the dribbling magic of Stan Terlecki. He cuts inside, actually a shot that's going wide, but Ingram, positioned strategically there, is able to change the direction of it and get it in past P.J. Johns.
And you can see Ingram with his 12th goal of the year, and he leads the Storm in that category. So it is 3-0, St. Louis leading at the intermission, and now we can get a look at the statistics on the first half. And once again, they would favor the Storm, certainly on the goal-scoring side, although the Crunch had its opportunities.
The Crunch had quite a few opportunities. Ilyievsky's been sharp, but even more than that, the Storm defenders have made so many blocks, and we see quite a few of them I don't think have been credited, because if you remember, there were 5 blocks maybe in a 2 or 3 minute period at one point, but the shots 19-12 for the Cleveland Crunch. The saves, Ilyievsky 7 and P.J. Johns 5.
So Ilieski was especially busy in the first period, but not so much in the second. And we have credited St. Louis with 12 blocks in that first half, and that sounds more like it. I mean, they were very aggressive defensively, and that really was the key to their effort in that first half.
They're really not giving an inch. They've got this newfound confidence. They won 7-1 in last night's game against Tacoma. They come up here, and they start off with a 3-0 lead, and they're not going to try and let that slip away without a lot of really grit, and they're showing that. They're defending with a vengeance, making it difficult for Cleveland, despite some of the good things that Cleveland is doing offensively when it comes to that final shot. The St. Louis Storm defenders are just getting a foot in there at the last second.
Well, you know, it is said that people from Scandinavian countries are not very emotional, but the Finn, Kai Hoskevy, may be having an emotional talk at halftime.
I think I could see some steam coming out of the Crunch's locker room right now, and there's no way that Kai Hoskevy can be happy with the performance up to this point, and I've got a feeling we're going to see a much different Crunch team coming out for the second half.
Well, we'll see if the Crunch comes out flying in the second 30 minutes of play. It's halftime at the Richfield Coliseum. St. Louis leading 3-0. We'll be back with more in a moment on Sports Channel.
He made Dargle make the first move and then reacted very well to his right to smother the shot, but he wouldn't go for any fakes. He wasn't going to put himself out of the play.
Held his ground, and that wasn't up. And here's Liete, and there's a goal again for Godfrey Ingram. Nope, that's Usean. Thompson Usean, number 20, as the Crunch thinking it might score on the Dargle shot, but on the counterattack, St. Louis gets an easy one and a 4-0 lead.
How many times have you seen that where really missing an opportunity comes back to haunt you almost instantly? There's an emotional letdown when you don't score, and here it comes the other way. And it's a 2-on-1 break as Leite breaks in behind. He gets the ball past Mepham, and Usean hits his first time underneath P.J. Johns, and that's a difficult save because he's still adjusting to the pass. We'll see it here. The pass goes across the box, top of the box behind Mepham's leg to Usean, and P.J. Johns still trying to get his position set. Before he can get completely set, Usean is able to drive the ball low underneath him.
It was a good, quick shot from Thompson, who, of course, has been a fine goal scorer on many levels for many years, so he knows what to do with it in that situation. His 7th goal of the season, and the Storm leads it by a ski with another nice save. Now Dargle settles it down, but it's kicked out of there by the Storm, and downfield it goes, and now they're 2-on-1 with Ingram. Ingram going to cut it to the top of the circle over to Terlecki, and he scores. And that is what happens when you pull everybody forward, including the goalkeeper, into the attack. Terlecki with his 2nd goal of the night and 6th in 2 games.
Well, you saw there that Ingram certainly can dance on the ball, and Terlecki can finish. Out of Orf having really not much of a chance in that situation. The 2-on-1 situation developed. Here we see it. Ingram coming forward. He's got Mepham. Mepham trying to cut off that passing angle, but Ingram is too quick to step inside. And then Terlecki just first times it low at the side of the foot. Orf still really scrambling back into position from having been well out from his goal when he was trying to help with the Crunch attack.
He almost got caught out of position the first time, and that time he did. It is 5-0 St. Louis, and we'll be back with more in a moment on Sports Channel. Nothing. There has been no scoring here in this final quarter, and Terlecki again will tow the ball out to D. Oliveira, and the Crunch will have to get back defensively. D. Oliveira to the middle of the field, and a goal. Orf got a piece of it, but D. Oliveira gets his 6th of the season. And speaking of 6, it is a 6-0 St. Louis lead.
Just a quick little low shot by De Oliveira. He broke down the right board to get the close-up of him. He cuts inside very nicely on Michael King. He's looking around for options. Instead, he decides to get a quick low shot off and gets it in underneath Otto Orf, using Michael King and the Cleveland Crunch defenders as a screen.
5:23 to go. It is St. Louis 6, the Crunch nothing. And we'll be back with more in a moment. 6 goals in a game 3 times. But they have never put a 0 on the other side.
They've not been shut out.
And they're not going to be tonight either, as the Crunch, hallelujah, gets on the board right there. A quick one. And a celebratory ball into the crowd. Michael King turned, and Slobo, for a change, had no chance on that one.
A nice little ball by Mike Sweeney into Mike King, set the situation up. And Ilieski, as well as he's played, he's not going to be able to keep coming up with those kind of saves. And here's Sweeney. He slides it through. Good vision by Sweeney as he sees King's run through the top of the box. And King, as he does so well, was able to turn in one motion and blast the ball low and hard to Ilieski's left.
Well, the goals 12 seconds apart. We'll be back in a moment at the Coliseum. It is now 6-1 St. Louis on Sports Channel.
Otto Orff well out of his goal, too. That was a difficult one to read.
20 seconds to play. Keith to Sweeney and over to Mepham. And there's Mike Sweeney back for Mepham. And the Storm, as it has been much of the night, right on the ball again, and a foul on Cleveland. And St. Louis will have it. So for St. Louis, a couple pretty good nights of soccer. 7-1 last night, and it looks like a 6-1 final tonight. Unless someone hits here at the final buzzer, it won't happen. And it is all over.
St. Louis, the beneficiaries, really have some fine goalkeeping both nights. Last night, David Bursick, and tonight, Slobodan Ilieski. You saw 19 saves. Quite a busy night for him.
And yet another win for the 40-year-old in goal. He was super tonight, and we'll be back in a moment. St. Louis wins it tonight at the Coliseum by a count of 6-1. Steve French back along with Ty Keogh at the Coliseum, and in the background they are playing Don't Worry, Be Happy, which is probably as good a theme as any for tonight's contest, as St. Louis wins it 6-1. Stan Terlecki with 2 goals and 2 assists to lead the way, and hey, it's only one game in a long season. And Ty, not a great effort, though, from the Crunch tonight, but you just suck it up and go again the next time.
Well, you could almost see it from early on with the fine play by Ilieski, keeping the Crunch out, that it just was going to be the Crunch's night. And sometimes those nights come about. You have to put them behind you, make sure that you make certain adjustments, and go on to the next one.
So there you have it. St. Louis winning its second in a row and looking good at it. We'll be back with more from the Coliseum after this timeout. Tonight, it's all St. Louis. A reminder, our next game on Sports Channel will be Sunday, February 11th, 2 p.m., the San Diego Sockers versus the Cleveland Crunch. And let's take a look at our credits. The executive producer tonight is Joe Tanzarello. This game has been produced and directed by Patrick J. Murray. The associate producer, George Pryor. The associate director, Paul Tananaco. The master control operator, Rich Farrell and Laura Tobacco. Transmission provided by Hughes Television Network. Coming up next, Halls of Fame with Al Kaline. We'll join that one in progress. Steve French, Ty Keogh with you tonight. Again, that final score, the St. Louis Storm 6, the Cleveland Crunch 1. The proceeding has been an exclusive production of Sports Channel Ohio.